What is up, everybody? Welcome to The Hypothesis. I'm Kimberly Epphone, where I get to know and understand the behavioral patterns of basic, simple-minded followers, as well as liars, narcissists, and idiots contributing to a toxic culture that oozes a lack of humanity and defies all logic. It also shows extraterrestrial life that we are not really worthy of their time, energy, or effort to begin with. At the end of the day, best thing a dog can do is to walk its human companion and try to support the troubled vessel. But I feel as if troubled vessels who refuse to do the work and go within to heal themselves are already too far gone and damaged because they just refuse to do the work and nobody else can do it for them. With that being said, everybody's favorite intellectual, Kimberly Epphone, is going to rock a behavioral assessment today on spiritual bullies, religious gaslighters, and deception artists who have gaslighting, lying, controlling people, and attempting to manipulate outcomes and shift narratives as a result of gaslighting, spiritual bullying, and mind control down to a science by choosing to play on the emotions of the viewer based on often their spiritual beliefs. And they do this in order to control them, manipulate them, and continue to string them along to go along with their way of thinking. So let's get down to the nitty gritty. Check this out. I'm gonna do a little spit before I get into it. I claim 100% energy today, y'all. Kimberly Epphone, 100 because it's my energy anyways, right? We're glad to show up to claim it. Check this out. I'm about to get down to the nitty gritty. I pity fools that are trying to act witty. Your music taste is shitty, acting like a grown-ass clown. And that 500-year-old, you ain't so pretty. Hey, I'm just being goofy, all right? I respect my elders. I don't respect rodents who are 20 years old going on 500 though. I also don't respect vitality leeches who latch onto a younger source to get their source of beauty, success, creativity, and blessings as a result of this. So even if you're an older person, like a shitty person's a shitty person and age doesn't discriminate. It's sometimes not even spiritually related at all. It's simply seeing a shitty person for who they are. And you don't even need to identify as a specific religion, race, ethnicity, or sexual preference in order to be a shitty person, because shitty people come from all different walks of life. And it's easy for people to be shitty. So how do spiritual bullies operate? I'm gonna break it down for you. Here's the skitty. A spiritual bully operates something like this. Even though the person themselves conveying the message does not believe in the God being pitched to convey that message, they want to play on your emotional thought process by using God as a clever buzzword. And they will sort of start out by saying something along the lines of this. Check this out. It would be like they open their video package with God says. And that right there should tell you there's a huge red flag regarding the person who's conveying that message, trying to pass it on to you. Because if God says, they're claiming to speak on God's behalf. Would you believe somebody who says God says over communicating to the God you worship directly? Because if you're that easily fooled, then it's a dangerous, slippery slope you're climbing. And you have to be careful. And it's not as if the creator of the universe is on anybody's speed dial. Only you can communicate with God or whatever you choose to believe in. They are simply spiritually bullying you into going along with whatever they have to say or expect you to believe in order to go along with their way of thinking by using a buzzword such as God. They just want to control you by using God as a buzzword. Either they don't even believe in God or they believe in something, but it's not really what they are telling you they believe in. It's actually an illusion and deception. That's some clever, talented Mr. Ripley type shit right there. And the illusion is to convince you that they are sincere, authentic, and righteous by providing God as a clever buzzword. Sometimes even telling you to check out scriptures, and if you want to convince people to read scriptures in order to make them gain a better perspective or understanding about things, I see nothing wrong with that, and that's a good thing. But it's only spiritual bullying when you use it to convince the listener to go along with everything you have to say because it benefits you. I don't personally do that. If I just need guidance or something and I want to read a scripture, I will. And then if I have an opinion on it, maybe I'll share it. But I've actually learned not to do that when it comes to the religious and spiritual community. Here's why. When you openly share your gifts and you want to help people heal, people will take it for granted. Like when I first got started on my channel, I had no subscribers, then I had 1 subscriber. And I left like this big thing about healing your inner child. And some chick watched it and she said, "Thank you for this." I said, "You're welcome. If you enjoyed it and it benefited you in any way, please just hit subscribe to support the channel." And I didn't get a response, and she didn't subscribe. So they're there to take it. They like the idea of your energy, and they're gonna just show up and, I'm gonna take that, I like that, because it's like a drug to them and they become addicted to it. It's your job to deplete Count Dracula of the source. So Count Dracula shows up, they're like, want a piece of that energy. And then you deplete them and you're like, nah, fuck you, Count Dracula. And that's the way it goes, bro. Now, there are other forms of spiritual bullying aside from using your beliefs as clever buzzwords to gain your attention and control you. Always pay close attention to a narcissist who commands instant attention, because they will usually open up with something along the lines of, "Listen, pay attention to this right now. God wants you to see this right now." Or they might say, "God created life, and if you skip this message, God's gonna be really angry with you." That is straight up gaslighting as well as spiritual bullying, but it's a little more like covert because they're trying to push it so hard. They demand your instant attention and they want you to hit the likes and subscribe to them because those clever buzzwords are working out for them, apparently, because deception pays. But not when a person is authentic and they want to know the truth and they actually value spirituality and care about it. And I don't give a shit if people dislike that, because wouldn't they have a lot to gain by living comfortably inside of a lie? I'm sure they would, but we're not going to provide that here. So when they can say all this shit, sometimes they may even use like AI to generate it or something. And that could just be some little kid with a computer or something, like using AI to generate a spiritual bullying piece. It's cleverly orchestrated bullshit, whether it comes from a little kid or a grown-ass adult, but they're acting very childish by gaslighting you for your spiritual beliefs. But when an actual person is willing to put a name and face to their content, whether they're real and authentic about it or not, I think it's a bold statement when you make that decision to spiritually bully people, because if you're authentic and you're putting a name and face to what you're doing, there's really like no spiritual bullying in it if you're authentic. If they have 12 companies promoting their products and they say, "Pay attention right now," and God says this, you know something's probably up and they're trying to force a narrative. I want to specifically discuss premeditated psychic bullying. To me, premeditated psychic bullying symbolizes a person who claims to be a psychic, but in reality, they just show signs of being a psychotic. They can't really claim their predictions to be factual. They just say what they say in order to get you to go along with it, and they want to convince you that it's socially acceptable to believe it. And they may even be like really, really extreme in their approach. Sometimes they are straight up aggressors regarding this, so they might come in real strong with some sort of extreme demanding energy where they just demand and require complete control over the way you handle a specific situation. In this case, it's premeditated psychic bullying content. You better believe this or else type attitude, even though that's not psychic. There's nothing psychic about that. They're just telling you what they want to push. And it'll say something like, "Oh, you thought you broke up with this girl in the year 2005? Well, guess what? I've been talking to her every single day behind your back, and she's gonna text you soon. Then you might even get a text later confirming that it was actually true. But if that is the case, like, that's not being a psychic at all. That's premeditated psychic bullying, and you know exactly what you were doing when you chose to come up against the person to create unnecessary issue for them, which I would call somewhat along the lines of stalking. But you agreed to it, you worked with an attachment rodent, and the viewer wants nothing to do with it. And now, even though you collaborated, it wasn't really a psychic prediction, it was just more premeditated psychic bullying. The only thing you can't control, however, is the reaction itself. Once you take that leap of faith, the person who gets the text message from the attachment rodent they broke up with in the year 2005 is just going to ignore the heck out of them. But what did you expect? Did you expect that if you told them that message through premeditated psychic bullying that they would go along with it? Another example of premeditated psychic bullying would be this person from your past is coming back, and just when you thought you got rid of them, here they come. Okay, I mean, that sounds like stalking again to me, but did you feel like even if that was true, that me or anybody else the message is related to would actually give that person permission, or even give them the time of day at all, or bother associating with them or listening to them? Because the two of you doing all this premeditated psychic bullying, the collaboration sounds like you all need to go get yourselves a bottle of brown liquor or a six-pack or something, because you've done so much bonding without me. Don't let me stop you now, and I don't need you, so have at it, psychos. So don't ever feel like you're entitled to a conversation when you put out premeditated psychic bullying, and your guilty conscience, whether it's sincere or not, does not entitle you to a conversation when you do somebody dirty. With that being said, the most lethal type of premeditated psychic bullying I've ever seen is when the premeditated psychic bully claims to play the matchmaker. So they will tell you somebody's in love with you and they plan to marry you. So get ready. Here comes the love offer of a lifetime, and you're gonna be married soon. Yeah, I mean, but what makes you think somebody who is that controlling, trying to force shit that heavily, would even stand a chance in a relationship or marriage by forcing it like that? The collaborators just need to marry each other, as far as I'm concerned. It sounds like they're already in some type of a business marriage if they're doing premeditated psychic bullying. And you can sip on that cup of banishment regarding us like it's your last drop of brown liquor or the last beer out of a six-pack, whatever. Let me know how you rock. The worst case I've ever seen, hands down, of premeditated psychic bullying is when they will tell you somebody or a group of people are coming into union with you, and you're gonna go to a specific place because it's a fated event and they've already decided, and it must be a prophetic word according to what they're saying. That's absolute bullshit. You don't go along with anything that you're not comfortable doing, and if you don't trust people, then I guess that would be a confirmation that it's not going to go their way. And fate is not what somebody predetermines, by the way. Fate is not what somebody expects of you. Fate is not what somebody writes down or pays money to have done or expects to go their way. Fate is what you do coming to reality by putting in the work, developing a talent or skill, and not listening to other people, because fate, like if you choose to believe in it, is simply what the universe wants for a specific person, and then it actually happens to them. So like if I was born with psychic gifts or something, and I felt called to heal people who wanted to be healed, then I suppose I would potentially want to help them out. But the question is, do they really want help, or are they just stoned off my energy and they want to come in like Count Dracula, like, because I've had enough people do that already. The problem is, once you do me dirty, don't ever expect me to heal you. It's like that podcast I did of, what's that, the paparazzi, when his stalker's dangling on a cliff, and when the stalker extends his hand, he doesn't pull his stalker up to save him, nor does he push him off the cliff, but the stalker put himself in that mess, so he falls off the cliff and he's gone. Like, that's the best way I could explain somebody expecting me to help them or feeling like they're entitled to something from me after they've already done me dirty and shown me their true colors. No contact. I am strictly no contact with anybody who thinks that way. But if anybody's sincere about like healing without being weird or crazy, I think there's a right way to do it. And I don't know, I suppose I would be helping people in private. I wouldn't want like the wrong person getting a hold of that information. But I'm not going to focus on that stuff here because there's too much fakeness, premeditated psychic bullying, and spiritual bullies and gaslighters in the spiritual community. So it just prevents me from really openly sharing everything. As much as I would like to help everybody, sometimes you can't. So like my idea of fate is if somebody's born with certain spiritual gifts and then somebody required help from them, and you know that they're not weird or crazy, then if they wanted to reach out to you like privately, you could potentially help them if you feel like they wanted your help and they accepted your guidance. But it depends on the individual and what they're hoping to get out of the situation. To me, fate is just like what you were born with, what the universe wants for you, what God wants for you. And it doesn't belong to anybody else, no matter how much they try to force a specific narrative. You can't just come in and take something that doesn't belong to you. That's the definition of a thief, and that's not how fate works if you believe in fate. We're gonna end it with religious gaslighting. It's a severe form of mind control regarding the victim because they've decided to give themselves to an entire religion, but they're met with a gaslighting leader or a gaslighting preacher who's there just to reap the rewards of the benefit of you believing in a higher power for their own benefit. This is often the most severe form of mind control, which I refer to as religious gaslighting, because even if the victim has decided to give themselves to a religion, that's actually meant to help them and not constantly having them on this like low vibrational energy where most likely the person who's pretending to be righteous and pretending to be up here is not really there. But what if somebody sold you the idea of righteousness in the form of being wicked? Would you become comfortable living inside of that lie, or would you be willing to respect yourself enough to not allow a religious gaslighter to control you? Because I'll tell you what, I've seen ministries use scriptures and speak of God to convince people to go along with very specific narratives, which are very evil and unrighteous. But if you believe in the opposite of that, why would you go along with that unless you're comfortable living into a lie? And that's very dangerous. I would rather just not belong to any religion at all and openly express my spiritual beliefs, but not too much, because there's some weird people out there and you can't ever share too much. The ones who are not aware of spiritual bullying and religious gaslighting may not even know what to do, but the ones who are aware are comfortable living in that lie. It's just really dangerous for the people who seek out righteousness or a better life, or they believe in a higher power, but then they're being guided to actually do the opposite of what that religion teaches. It goes against the very thing it teaches in the first place, which is to be righteous. And I've seen people, sometimes I even know closely, use this tactic, and it's the most dangerous form of control a person can have over their victim. Man, either they think like we're stupid, they must be delusional, or they think we have amnesia regarding all the things that they've said and done to gaslight us using spirituality. But we remember and we know. And if you took a scripture to bend a narrative and twist it in the form of doing something evil, then your true colors were revealed and the mask has already been ripped off. So don't ever listen to that preacher or ministry again once they do that. If they are cruel and unfair towards you and then they justify it in the form of a religious extremist belief system, remember all of that so you don't regret being duped again, because you're not going to be stupid enough to fall for it twice. When somebody gets bad things happening to them specifically though, like in the form of negative energy or just bad karma, that might be whatever you are tapped into just happening to you on a spiritual level. Like, since I believe how I perceive energy is that we're all connected to a higher power, but if you're just putting out bad things and wishing the worst for everybody all the time, and you actually do like spells on them or something like that, it's gonna come back to you. And even though I just kind of joke around sometimes with my music stuff, the ice cold villain character is, even if I'm like just sticking up for myself or making light of the situation, I'm not wishing anybody bad sincerely. I don't do spells on people, but I can't say the same for everybody. And it's only when it becomes too late for you that you'll cry out to that same God you used to religiously gaslight a person into accepting how evil you are. And then you wanted them and expected them to go down for your evil ways. You expect them to give up their entire life for your benefit. And that's when it becomes dangerous and the victim has to start telling the religious extremists, my answer is no. And then you develop a strong cutoff game. Not only is the answer no, you cut these people out of your life for good. And by the time it's too late, they may already be praying to the God they claim to hide behind, but maybe it will be too late for them. I don't know, only God can judge them, right? Or the universe or whatever you believe in. Because these people who do this sort of thing, they don't regret anything they've done. They don't feel remorse or guilt. They just feel like uneasy that the universe is paying back the sick things they've done or said to expect things to go a certain way and abuse people and ruin people's lives sometimes. That's a religious gaslighting situation, but they will pray when bad karma hits just in order to stop the bad karma from happening to them. But they've refused to heal themselves and they've refused to do the work. It's easier to live inside of a lie, to be comfortable living in that lie, than to be authentic, to really look inside yourself and to heal that inner child or heal whatever is damaged currently. If you're not even willing to do the work, that's on you. And it seems like a hopeless cause if somebody is unwilling to change. I've made a lot of positive changes in my life, but I learn something new every day. Anyways, we're gonna end it there. Have a good one, y'all. And then you deplete them and you're like, nah, fuck you, Count Dracula. And that's the way it goes, bro. And then you deplete them and you're like, nah, fuck you, Count Dracula. And that's the way it goes, bro. And then you deplete them and you're like, nah, fuck you, Count Dracula. And that's the way it goes, bro. And then you deplete them and you're like, nah, fuck you, Count Dracula. And that's the way it goes, bro.